It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for November 7th, 2022. I think for the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, Final Fantasy XIV won't stop growing, and Phil Spencer wants to bring back some classic Blizzard games. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host of Game Mess Mornings. It's Jordan Midler from Video Games Chronicle. How you doing, Jordan?
Right, Jeff, get to your bed. I'll handle this.
All right, thank you so much. I got a pillow, got my anime body pillow right over here. I'm just going to snuggle up in this chair, and you're going to handle the rest of the show, all right?
I've got it. Don't worry about it. Let's do the news. Final Fantasy XIV dev has a terrible answer for why the game is so white.
You got to make it more Ohio. More Ohio. It's pretty close, though, actually. It's pretty good.
Who knows where Ohio is? Where is it in reference to New York?
I went to school in Ohio, so I don't know where anything is. That's the whole...
You went to school?
Well, I mean, they call it, so-called school.
Yes.
But listen, I got a degree, diploma. I got a diploma, but I think it's not worth the paper it's printed on. Listen, I fooled everyone so far. They let me talk about video games on the internet without a license, mind you. Now, don't tell anybody about that, but they do let me do that. Jordan, how you been?
I'm good, man. It's been nice. It's review season. Just wrapped up God of War, and it ends like this. And then straight out of that, I have another huge game to review. But at the same time, I'm going to the US tomorrow. I'm flying over to Portland. And all I can say about it is that it has to do with Microsoft. That's about it.
Fair enough.
So enjoy that.
Well, I'll look forward to reading the report and seeing what you have to say about all that. But
yeah, it's kind of, I need to fly from Glasgow to London, then London to Seattle, then Seattle to Portland.
Okay,
so it'll be
that sounds right. Yeah,
a busy ass day, and then on Friday I will briefly be in San Francisco to fight to the death with Greg Miller once and for all.
Yes, take him out, please, please. Just end this for us all. End our long national nightmare of dealing with Greg Miller. If you're watching the video, you might be wondering why I'm like this. I just finished my all-night stream for Extra Life on raising money. We raised $3,500 over the last 12-ish hours. It was a really good time. I don't remember much of it, honestly, at this point. I mean, I know I played some video games. I plugged in a Genesis Mini 2 at some point.
Yeah.
Played Fall Guys.
I popped in to see you play a bit of that Sonic just towards the end.
I did play Sonic Frontiers, yes.
That game. Interesting. An interesting review.
Yeah, I like it. Like, I like it. Maybe we could do a Sonic Frontiers review roundup here at the end. We'll get to it. I have some thoughts, mostly positive, based on low expectations for a Sonic game, if that makes sense.
Fair.
I think that people probably get what I'm saying there. All right, before we get to that, before we get to everything else, let's explain what we do here. Each weekday, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. Hello, Twitch. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. Welcome. Okay, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with Final Fantasy XVI dev has a terrible answer for why the game is so white. From Shiji Zhang at Kotaku. 2 weeks ago, Square Enix released a new story trailer for its upcoming RPG Final Fantasy XVI. There's just one noticeable issue. There doesn't seem to be a single non-white character in it. So, IGN, curious about that, asked producer Naoki Yoshida about whether or not the game would feature any black or people of color. Unfortunately, his response made the writer of the story, Shiji Zhang, go, yikes, in real life. Yoshida explained that the fantasy world of Valisthea. You want to try that one for me? Valisthea?
It's Valisthea. I know, I'm a lore expert, actually.
Yeah, that's why I called on you. That's why you got the call this morning. I'm like, man, I need a lore expert. Valisthea was based on medieval Europe, and they wanted to limit the world culturally and geographically. Valisthea was never going to realistically be as diverse as, say, modern day Earth. That's a quote now. Or even Final Fantasy XIV, he said, as if he was being asked to incorporate every race on the entire planet. Ultimately, we felt that while incorporating ethnic diversity into Valisthea was important, an over-incorporation into this single corner of a much larger world could end up causing a violation of those narrative boundaries we originally set for ourselves. Which begs the question, why did they enforce a white-only boundary in the first place? When you don't care about something, just say you don't care about something. Don't make up bullshit. Jordan, that's just where I'm at. Honestly, at this point, most people are used to hearing, I don't care about that thing that you are asking me about. We didn't think about that because it's not important to us. And you could leave that second part unsaid. You could just say, oh, we didn't think about that. And any of those things would have been better than this.
Yeah, there's such a weird attempt to be like, oh no, it actually makes total sense in the lore of this game that we made up. Which obviously, as the writer points out, is like, then why did you make that part of the lore? Like, if it's entirely up to you, then what are you saying here? Yeah, this was a complete kind of foot and mouth situation. It's just, it's disappointing to see, and it's been handled poorly. But do JRPGs generally have a good track record of being like inclusive and representative? Like, I don't actually know. Like, it seems like something that needs a lot more work done to it.
Yeah, and the game still looks fun. People are gonna play it. It's gonna be fine. I think it's I'm glad that Kat over at IGN asked this question. I'm glad people are talking about it. We can poke and prod with criticism even before we play something. And, this answer is just not satisfactory. It is, it's worse than that. It is a bit embarrassing. And I think you would hope that they could come back and have something better. But in the end, you would also kind of hope that the game wouldn't be in this position in the first place. It just doesn't make sense on the face of it. They go on. Yoshida, I think Yoshi P. Is this the Yoshi P. Yoshida? I think, or is that a different person?
Is that not the fighting game guy? I don't actually know. Let me find out.
Yes, it is. Yoshi P is the producer of Final Fantasy XIV and now the producer of Final Fantasy XVI.
If you Google Yoshi P currently, it's just a ton of news stories being like, this guy gave the worst answer possible.
His quote goes on to say, the story we are telling is fantasy, yes, but it is also rooted in reality. When the only time you're bringing up reality is when you need to explain why your game is very, very white. It's it's weird. It's just weird. I'm not gonna. People are gonna jump. Oh, so he's racist? I'm not saying that. I don't know. I don't know this man's heart. I actually don't care. That's not the point. It's not the point. The point is that this is a weird look for the game. What is your answer? Oh, your answer is even weirder. Okay, this is just kind of bad. I'm probably still gonna play this game. Most people I think who are asking these questions and has an issue here are probably still gonna play this game. They just want a little bit more. They're just asking for a little bit better, and they know that Yoshi P can do better because they have games that no one has issues with, like Final Fantasy XIV, where they'd be like, oh, this is a varied world of all these different species and skin colors, and it feels representative in all kinds of different ways. So we're not, no one's. I don't think anyone's asking for 100% the match that diversity, but just a better answer than this at the very least.
Yep.
Other Final Fantasy news, Final Fantasy XVI is going to be PlayStation 5 exclusive for 6 months. This is according to a new video that went up on the PlayStation Twitter account today. I actually have it right here. Let's go ahead and throw a snowball at the screen. Bring this up. I'm going to hit play. Now look at the bottom here. You can see that, we lost it. You can see that fine print. Final Fantasy XVI anticipated summer 2023. Period, and then PS5 exclusive for 6 months. That probably doesn't mean Xbox, right? This probably means Steam and Epic Games.
Yeah. Going out on a limb here, I think in the current regime, in the current era, we don't see a mainline Final Fantasy back on Xbox for a long, long time.
Yeah, I think Sony earmarked a whole bunch of money for long-term exclusive deals. And Microsoft took a lot of those options off the table when they bought Bethesda, let alone, Activision Blizzard. But especially Bethesda, because we know Starfield was considered for that, and Starfield would have been a lot of money. And so, that money's just sitting there, and Sony still has it earmarked for this very specific purpose. Let's just throw more of that towards Final Fantasy. That's a name that at least moves the needle. In terms of sales, we've talked about this before on the show. Final Fantasy VII Remake. A game in that position where it's been exclusive on consoles to PlayStation so far. it's not the biggest seller in the world. There are other console exclusive games that have sold way, way better than that. But it is Final Fantasy, and the name means a lot, and it seems like Sony thinks they're getting their money's worth. And frankly, they don't have a lot of other options for games of that caliber or that name recognition that they could spend that money on. So I think you're absolutely right. I unmuted that, and that's just blasting my ears now. We're a well-oiled machine here. So, yeah, I think that we're probably going to go through this generation without these things ending up on Xbox. Maybe we're wrong, but that's where I'm at, too. Do you think like Final Fantasy VII Remake does maybe squeak in on the Xbox in the next year or two, or even that doesn't? Yeah. Wait,
no, not a chance. This is like a generational swap kind of thing. If we get to the end of this gen without Sony actually just buying Square Enix, you can imagine on an Xbox stage in 5 years, Phil coming out with like a Final Fantasy t-shirt under his leather jacket and going, and coming back, we have Final Fantasy and Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Sorry, notice a theme with your American accents, but
look, this is just how American people sound to the Scottish ear. But yeah, I could see that being if they don't end up going full PlayStation, which at this point, why would Sony bother when they can just give them money to make Final Fantasy, which is the only important Square Enix thing, really, effectively be a PlayStation game?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth it to both parties. I mean, Sony obviously, or Square Enix obviously wants this sort of relationship. They're sort of talking about expanding a similar kind of relationship going forward with all of their studios. Like, hey, third parties come in and invest in our studios and take some ownership stakes, minority ownership stakes, but ownership stakes nonetheless, and be a significant partner with us making our new games. And it's like, oh, okay. And I think they're happy. Obviously, I don't think Sony has purchased a minority stake in any of the Final Fantasy studios, but they still want similar outcomes where they have strong relationships with someone who's going to give them a lot of money up front. Sony's doing that, and again, I think it's worth it to Sony. And occasionally they get some of these other runoffs like Forspoken, which, like, who knows, maybe that gets really big, maybe it's a really successful game, blows everyone away, and if it's not, well, it's worth the try every once in a while with these other partner games from Square Enix. So yeah, PS5 exclusive for Final Fantasy XVI for 6 months. Then we get it on Steam and Epic Games. Any chance it's like Epic Games exclusive on PC first before it hits Steam? I guess that's possible, right?
Yeah, I mean, if there's scope to do like an extra wee deal at the end there, it's obviously not as impactful as being like a console exclusive or whatever. But yeah, I could see that happening. Was the Epic version of the Epic version of Final Fantasy VII was like terrible at launch. I remember.
Yeah, there was issues.
Digital
Yeah,
Foundry saying that the PC version was like fucked. So I wonder if they'll actually sort that out by the time they get to this. It also said in the wee footnote, summer 2023. Would you like to speculate on a date?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's because not July. That probably means like late summer, but it's not going to be August either. So I don't know. Maybe they actually put it out in June. Then it's probably June. It's probably like early June, right before E3, probably.
Yeah, I could imagine that, or potentially like last week of June, so that at least one of the things at their E3 involvement can be the final big launch trailer for FF, and be like, and it's out, and well, not announced that it's out in a couple of weeks then, but that's like a kind of part of their presentation. Because outside of that, obviously they're making a new Kingdom Hearts for whatever goddamn reason, but that's not like, I doubt that'll be in any shape
there's no
to
God,
show
that's
by
why.
June. Yeah, exactly. Maybe they'll put out a new Nier and stop just releasing that old game a million times and collaborating with every game under the sun.
Yeah.
So yeah, Square's in an interesting position. It feels like they got out of the stage of just being so reliant on Final Fantasy and diversified, and now they've completely thrown that all away, and it's just Final Fantasy again.
That is incorrect, Jordan Midler, because blockchain technology is the key to Square Enix growth, financial results show. This comes from Ed Nightingale at Eurogamer. As part of the company's medium-term business strategy, it aims to take on new domains as well as to strengthen its IP ecosystem and optimize business structure for a COVID world. Those new domains focus primarily on promoting blockchain games and entertainment. Last week, the company revealed its Symbiogenesis, which is not Parasite Eve, Symbiogenesis features its first sale of NFT collectible art based on a new IP, where the story unfolds based on the player's strategic moves. Prior to this, the company joined the Oasis blockchain and announced its plans for Final Fantasy NFTs. Further plans include Shinsei Sai Million Arthur 10th Anniversary NFTs. I don't know what that is. And investments in fintech platform ZBD, built on Bitcoin, medieval online strategy game Blocklords, NFT trading card game Cross the Ages, blockchain game developer Animoca Brands, and decentralized metaverse The Sandbox. Whoa.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, what the fuck? What? Why?
Like, honestly, I was like, okay, I'll read along in the show notes so I can understand where you're going here. And my eyes just completely glazed over. I was like, what the fuck? Like what? But
you're not wrong. I think that's an accurate assessment of this. It is a bunch of fugazis that they're just throwing up, and they're hoping, because there's nothing real here. We say this all the time with this stuff. There's nothing real here. You have to hope that some speculation gets attached to it and makes these things make sense. And until that happens, they are just this whisper in the wind. And so you're right for your eyes to glaze over. If people are listening, you were right to tune us out. This is tune out worthy. This is not worthy of your committing any of these things to memory, because they are probably just going to fade into the sands of time, and we will never hear about them again. We got another story coming up about Square Enix here. It's not much of a story. It's like the coda to this. They have a couple of successful things. They have a lot of things where they make some pretty decent smaller games that tactics games and strategy RPGs, things people sometimes care about, but they're not moving the needle big time. They sold their Western studios. This is the NFT crypto stuff is the strategy going forward more than anything else. More than making games that appeal to a global audience, like they talked about last week. That's not really what they're doing. They are doing the NFT thing 100%. And good luck with that, I guess. But really, I just don't see this going. This has the potential to go so wrong that it does actually end up harming something like Final Fantasy XIV, which seems invulnerable to me right now. But it's like, when things go so bad, we have to sell the golden goose or something like that. Who knows? It probably won't happen. But I don't know. Like, is Square Enix just lost? Is this? Do we have to wait for them to crash and burn and sort of reboot?
It would be like spectacularly Square Enixy to revive Final Fantasy from the jaws of death, and then bring NFTs in it and kill it. I feel like they're a studio that, were it not for 14 being so successful, they'd be making strange swings again. But look, if they're in a position where the mainline Final Fantasies sell enough and are popular enough, because when you think about like the Final Fantasy brand isn't just the games, it's all the fucking concerts they do, and it's all the merch and all it is one of gaming's biggest like capital B brands that they have. So as long as that's doing well, and as long as Final Fantasy 14 is like pumping out money, obviously they have the strategy games that are like chugging along on Switch, and that is a factor in why I don't actually think it's that likely they would go PlayStation exclusive, because those games are at home on Switch and have like a good thing going there. It's weird to me that they're not utilizing the back catalog of Final Fantasy more. I know they're
those pixel remasters still not on a Switch. What is wrong with this company?
I know they're remaking bits and pieces. Final Fantasy VII's like chugging along. In those games, I really like the Final Fantasy VII remake. I'm excited for that next one. But it does feel like they need another pillar that isn't just Final Fantasy again. Like, maybe they should have just supported those Deus Ex games from last gen, because those games were cool as fuck and they deserved more.
Yeah, I mean, they maybe should have believed in them in a way that they clearly did not when they're like, okay, go make Marvel games. And then those didn't work out. It's like, well, we're not going to go back to the other idea. We hated that idea.
Marvel's Avengers 2, baby. Come on.
This is a company that probably, will have to just keep relying on its biggest crutches in Final Fantasy XIV. And Final Fantasy XIV, as the other headline here, it is growing. It's increasing its subscriber number. Its monthly subscribers has gone up again. And I think that makes it the biggest it's ever been once again. It's just a massive success. It is, and its success is begetting more success. people see it, they hear the hype for it, and they can't help but be caught in its web. And it's it's impressive, and and you know, you have to. I think I at least give Square Enix credit for, you know, despite the story we opened with today, for giving the person, you know, responsible for overseeing Final Fantasy XIV the reins on Final Fantasy XVI and Yoshi P. I think that's mostly is a good thing that will lead to a very a beloved game, and maybe this will be the Final Fantasy that really does break through to the top selling you know, sales charts once again. You know, Final Fantasy VII Remake, we just talked about it, but 5 million copies sold in that first year or whatever on PlayStation 4. Not super great. You know, you get a Luigi's Mansion. Again, I know I was going to Luigi's Mansion, but Luigi's Mansion doing 11 million, 12 million on the Switch alone. I would imagine Final Fantasy 16 being the next real sequel could be the game that does those kinds of numbers. 10 million at least. I think it's well within its grasp. But you know, if it missteps a little bit, does Square Enix just panic and start throwing things out again? It feels like they could, and this is not a company that should be in that position. They should be building on going from strength to strength with Final Fantasy XIV, and they just can't seem to figure that out.
I cannot wait for the first chance I get to review a NFT game from one of these big companies, because I have absolutely fuck all idea what that's going to manifest as. Am I going to get sent NFTs? Would that not be a company essentially giving us like cash as part of this game? Like, it's weird enough when you get a game that has microtransactions and you get the like ultimate edition that comes with a load of currency, that actually having an NFT, like, fucking weird.
Yep, it is a very weird thing, and honestly, they should just stop it. Diablo 4 will allegedly launch in April 2023. This comes from Vicky Blake at Eurogamer. Rumor has it Blizzard may be set to release Diablo 4 in April 2023. That's according to the Xbox Era podcast and Windows Central, both of which believe Diablo 4's tentative 2023 release window can be narrowed down to April, with early access reportedly launching in February, and pre-orders going live as early as next month. It's thought more news will come during December's The Game Awards, which certainly sounds plausible enough. The Game Awards, of course, everybody, December 8th. That sounds right to me. This is in line. This game right now is in in-game beta testing or in-game closed beta testing, something like that, where people are testing the in-game of it and seeing what they think of it. And some of that stuff has been leaking for weeks now. So it definitely seems like it's ready and raring to go. And I know they want to get these games out relatively quickly. I mean, that they basically rushed out Overwatch 2 in whatever state they could to have an Overwatch 2 out on the market, starting to generate some income. They want to do the same thing with Diablo 4. So, yeah, April sounds totally likely to me. What do you think?
Yeah, that seems to be the case. There was a document floating about a few months ago that was like an internal kind of it was like media hits for when stuff would launch in the Activision calendar. So it was like, this is when Call of Duty was launching, this is when Warzone was launching, and it had like Diablo 4 Game Awards. Like, it didn't quite say like pre-order hit, but it was something like, this is when this activation is going to happen. So yes, I could see Jeff comes out and here's a trailer for Diablo 4. Pre-order now, it's out in April. If that slips, fucking who cares? But if you get a day out there, you can start kind of working towards that. And as you say, it seems like friends and family of Blizzard have been playing this game for about 3 years at this point. I have watched most of the game via like streamable clips that have been taken out of the thing. So yeah, I'm excited for that. Diablo 3 is an incredible game that I put so much time into. I just think because it's the Diablo brand has such a rough ride recently, I'm not as excited about it as I would be, but I bet that ends up being a really good game.
I agree. I think it's going to be really fun. It's going to be the kind of thing where they've really figured out Diablo on console now, so when it launches and ready for that platform, it's probably going to be where it's going to take over in a way that it has never done so before.
Yeah.
Phil Spencer wants to revive old Blizzard games. This comes from Jack Coleman at DualShockers. Microsoft Gaming CEO Phil Spencer is excited to sit down with Blizzard to speak about reviving some of the studio's back catalog following the completion of Microsoft's acquisition. In an interview with Wired, Spencer was asked if there was any plans for StarCraft once the purchase was complete. Spencer, of course, opened up by saying, hey, I can't tell them what to do. There are no plans. I can't make plans for them at all right now. That would be illegal. So he, in so many words, that's what he said. But he basically then he went on to say, hey, if I'm just like saying what I would like, it's what kind of world I would like to live in. Well, I would like not only for StarCraft but Warcraft. When you think about the heritage of RTS games that we're talking about here, specifically from Blizzard, and I don't have any concrete plans today because I can't really get in and work with the teams. But StarCraft was a seminal moment in gaming, right? From an esports perspective, from an RTS on consoles perspective, and from just an RTS storytelling perspective in the genre. And I'm excited about getting to sit down with the teams at Activision and Blizzard and King to talk about back catalog and opportunities that we might have. So, I mean, this is in line with what he usually says about all these things. He was asked early on about the Activision acquisition, and he started mentioning a list of games that I can't remember anymore, but they were pretty deep cuts. He seems like for one, he seems like a guy who's genuinely interested in many of these games, and also they very much fit with what he needs for Game Pass, which is a lot of games across a variety of genres, right?
Yeah, and obviously Blizzard and Activision have all this stuff in the back catalog. It's a bit different for Activision because you think of their back catalog as so license heavy that there's actually not that much that they could go out and grab. Right. But for Blizzard, yeah, an infinite amount of stuff. It instantly boosts PC Game Pass with a billion kind of classic games. So yeah, I can imagine this will be perhaps not top of his list of things to be getting on with if and when the deal closes. Just as long as the evil UK CMA don't destroy the deal. But yeah, I can imagine they will get on with this after they sort out how to make sure Call of Duty continues to thrive. But I think the bigger challenge for the Activision deal is what are they going to start doing that isn't Call of Duty, because it can't just be Call of Duty forever. Like get one of the million Microsoft studios to make a new like Spyro or Crash game or something like that. Andy made a good point the other day saying, like, out of all the studios Microsoft have acquired, like Obsidian's the only studio that's putting out any games. Why haven't one of the studios essentially done a Last of Us Part 1 with like a back catalog product? Just get that out quickly to start kind of moving forward. And I can imagine that is something they do with Activision. It obviously won't be a remake of Crash because they just done those, but
right.
Something in that kind of vein. This Microsoft Activision deal, man, is the story of the decade. Like, it just seems to go on forever.
Yeah, I mean, it's lasted forever. It's a real fight. They're making the fight public by going, all of Phil Spencer's comments are these interviews, and that makes it a bit juicier. And then all of Jim Ryan is just him phoning up, GameIndustry.biz and saying, "Hey, homie, you up? I need to tell the people some stuff." And they're like, "All right, let's do this." And so it's like, okay, they're battling out in the press, and that makes it worth talking about on its own terms. But then $69 billion. It's the biggest entertainment acquisition in the history of the world, and so it's going to be hard to get away from, even once it does go through.
It feels like it's one of the first mini series worth pieces of games drama in a while. They've been trying to make this like the Console Wars book into a film or a series for ages. Like, this is this generation's version of that.
Yeah, I mean, so I would be very happy to read or even like write the history of what happened here. Like, okay, yeah, what were the conversations like actually inside of Sony and Microsoft and anywhere else? I mean, I would even love to hear the conversation that happened within Apple when they decided we don't care about this. Like, I just want to hear the reasoning for all that stuff. It's fascinating.
They're too busy trying to force the European Union to not make them have USB-C on their iPhones.
Man, I was like, whatever. I'm not going to use Apple. That's fine, whatever. But then I'm like, oh, they still use the Lightning. Apparently that's USB 2.0 speeds. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with that company? That's so weird. But whatever, everybody. I'm fine with my Pixel. We talked about that. Okay. Twitter loses social lead for gaming. This comes from Jeffrey Rousseau at GI Biz. Twitter's falling apart, and they fired a bunch of people, including the person who's been in charge of gaming on Twitter gaming for many, many years now. That person was Shiraz Siddiqui, who was let go as part of mass layoffs, and said, "To all the creators, influencers, athletes, actors, streamers, and gamers I've had the pleasure of speaking to on behalf of Twitter, it's been an honor no matter what happens." He posted that several hours before confirming his termination. It was reported earlier this week that Musk had been planning. Elon Musk, the new owner of Twitter, bought it for $44 billion, even though he didn't mean to. It's been an honor, he's been planning to lay off half the company's employees as of this point last week. Siddiqui was with the social media firm for literally 9 years. I don't know what a social lead for gaming needed to do with Twitter. I was aware of Twitter gaming and their interactions with the gaming community. It always seemed to be in a different orbit than what the orbit I ran in. So it's just like, they are dealing with influencers and YouTubers that have massive audiences, and they're joking around with their gaming in jokes over there, and I'm like, that's not my scene. Still, it's just like, this stuff just is getting torn down and ripped apart, and it's odd, but also I mean, what do you do about it? What is to be done here? There's nothing to be done, right, Jordan?
Yeah. It's a shame because I thought a lot of Twitter's gaming stuff was pretty well handled. They were always good at getting gaming stories on like the Explore tab and stuff like that, and it was a great source of traffic for a lot of sites, especially if they would be linked as like the top kind of source when a story broke. But yeah, the Twitter is like an absolute bin fire at the minute, but there's no alternative. No one's going to build an alternative, like, because the value to Twitter is the amount of people, is not the technology. Like, who cares about the technology? So yeah, I looked right. This paying for verification thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I might do this because I think it'd be quite funny. But I found out that I could not do it. One, because it didn't work, and two, because I'm still blocked from applying for verification, simply for calling my very good friend Harry Mitchell the C word in a jovial sense. So if Elon
and
could
if Twitter
just
would
sort
understand,
out,
they know he absolutely is one.
Exactly. First of all, yes, and also that word, which Americans just hate, is used in Scotland in a much more kind of kind of.
Honestly, you could 100% get away with saying it right now on the show if you wanted to. I couldn't, and that's just how it feels right now. But it's I
don't know. I said it on Kind of Funny. So it's like I feel like I don't want my entire like legacy to just be
Johnny Appleseed, but replace Apple with the C word. Everybody, that's what our boy is. He's just planting the C word all over the place and letting it sprout all over gaming. It's just a stupid. I mean, obviously, paying for verification is a really stupid idea. For one, everyone hates people with blue check marks, and paying for it will also like ruin the mystique, so that no one will want to pay for it. And he's just so dumb he doesn't realize this. Elon Musk is so goddamn dumb. He's so stupid. I hate him. He's so goddamn stupid, and it's just.
What is he, Jeff? Call him it. What is he?
You know what? He's a cunt. You know what? I just said it. He is absolutely. Fuck Elon Musk.
Time.
Yes, absolutely. This guy is it's so obvious he doesn't know what he's doing, and then we have to deal with the fact that he is a billionaire, so we have to like watch him not know what he's doing in such a public way. Get out of here.
Yes.
So
you should do these streams completely sleep deprived more often. I think
you're onto something.
This is what we're after.
I think you're onto something. Let's just never sleep again. Sleep just for the week. Japan's PC gaming market doubles in size in the last 3 years. This comes from our friend Dr. Sirkin Toto over on his blog, where he writes, mobile is king in Japan's gaming market. There could be no doubt about that. In terms of market size, mobile gaming has become about 3 times bigger than console gaming in Japan over the last decade. But what about Japan's PC gaming market? Where he writes, that's long been considered a niche. For the longest time, the leading industry data providers in Japan either didn't bother to release numbers on the size of the Japanese PC gaming market or buried them at the end of the reports somewhere else. This is now changing. According to Japanese think tank Katakawa ASCII Research Laboratories, Japan's overall gaming market was worth around 2 trillion yen in 2021. That's console hardware and software, smartphones, and PC games combined. The sum currently translates to about US $13.7 billion, but note the yen has been falling drastically over 2021. Katakawa ASCII says that Japan's PC gaming market in particular was worth about 131.3 billion yen, which is equivalent to $896 million that year. Now, what's interesting is the size of the PC gaming market in 2021 roughly doubled versus 2018. So there's definitely significant growth here. Gamers in Japan are more accepting of the PC than ever. And Kadakawa Aski says that there was 16 million PC gamers in Japan in 2021. And that's among a total gamer base of 55.4 million people. Here too, comparison provides more context. In 2015, the same company identified just 11 million PC gamers in Japan. So the number grew a whopping 45%. Toto writes a bunch of reasons why this happens. Do you have anything like jumps immediately to mind? Because I had a few things, but I wonder what you think.
So I'm not entirely sure of the reason, but it seems like something that has been noticed, because if you remember recently, when Valve was doing all that Steam Deck stuff in Japan, it's obviously something that they're trying to like capitalize on, and I wonder if handheld PC in a previous era of like Japanese gaming would have just flopped, whereas now they're like, okay, there's something to actually do here. It's always been a big handheld market, like people playing Monster Hunter on the train has been the thing for a million years. But yeah, it's probably a combination of that. These new consoles are hard to get, and the Japanese market doesn't hugely give a fuck about them. We reported like a week ago or 10 years ago or whatever that it's the slowest modern console to hit 2 million in Japan for Sony. So there's obviously a change of the tides. But what was your take on it?
Yeah, it seemed like like a wraparound effect where companies like Capcom were saying, "Hey, we are going to put more of our games on PC." And so when fans of Capcom were like looking around, like, "Hey, where can I play these games?" Well, you could wait for the PlayStation 5, or once it's out, wait to find a PlayStation 5. Or you could just get a PC over the last couple of years and play all of Capcom stuff in the latest and greatest way right now. And maybe, the coronavirus, you might need a PC anyhow at your home. You need this stuff for work. So why not get one that's good for gaming? And just kind of all matched up. And those factors were things that Toto listed specifically. He led off with the coronavirus effect being number one. And then he also said the lack of availability for the PS5 was another. Growing acceptance of foreign and indie games in Japan was a big one. He noted PUBG, very popular in Japan. And it was a big mover for one of the stores that brought PUBG to Japan originally before it moved to the Steam version of Steam and Epic versions, the Japanese versions of those stores. Then also the improvement of the stores for Japanese culture. And we just know that in the last couple of months, Valve put out that, like, hey, what is Steam thing for the Japanese audience? And so all these things are just kind of hitting at the same time. And this is all before the Steam Deck has actually launched in Japan. I mentioned, I think late last week, we talked a little bit about this kind of topic and related to Japan. We were like, oh, is the Steam Deck out there? And I'm like, I thought it launched there. Maybe. I know they put out that guide about what is Steam, and they did do that. Steam Deck is still pre-order only in Japan right now. And then there's some like third-party sellers who are making it available at cost, but it's not directly through Valve yet. So it's like, okay, once that thing hits, who knows? Maybe the PC grows even faster. It seems well primed for it, though.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Pokemon developer Creatures is hiring for work on next-generation hardware. This comes from Jordan Midler at VGC. Jordan, you know why we had to include this. Anytime we get to talk about next-generation hardware anywhere near Nintendo, we got to make it happen. So thank you for this story. A job listing circulating on social media for the developer claims that the developer is looking for a 3D CG character modeler. In the listing, research and development for other next-generation hardware is listed as part of the role's workflow, potentially suggesting the company's in the planning phase for a project set to appear on a future platform. Is this a Switch Pro?
This is Switch 2, mate. This is actually, I'm going to confirm it right now.
I'll do it.
Just had word that this is in fact Switch 2.
Switch 2?
Yeah, it's actually...
you heard it here.
It's going to have less horsepower in it. They're thinking they can just go backwards, save a bit of money.
Really bold of them. Yeah. I think Nintendo's really going to scare some people, but that's where they're at their best, is when they're in the corner, like a wounded animal.
Honestly, Nintendo fans would still defend it.
Oh yeah, 100. I'm ready. I'm already ready. Let's do it.
Fine.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be better. Think about that battery life. That battery life is going to last forever. Yeah. It's going to be.
Pokemon Legends Arceus ran at like 5 frames a second. That's 5 too many for us.
It's going to be an e-ink screen that just refreshes and flashes white and then comes back. I love that. All games should be that way.
So the thing is, like, I've been thinking about this a lot. I'm not sure this is definitely for a game. I think this is them getting ready to, because Creatures do the modeling on the main series games, and they develop like Detective Pikachu and Pokemon Ranger, like the side series stuff. I think this is them staffing up to remodel 1,000 Pokemon at a higher resolution, because they've not remodeled them since the 3DS. So this is obviously, there's an ongoing, they can't just keep stretching the 3DS models larger and larger. Like you see it in a bit of the trailers for the new Pokemon game. They've added a bit of texture to them, but they're still super basic. So I think this is them staffing up for that, for when they have to do it for the next Switch. I am convinced that as soon as Zelda's out the door, they're going to be like, right, finally, can do this and have a bit of actual power to their hardware again.
Yeah,
I mean, not actual power, not like PS5 power, but not like the PS1 that they're currently trying to put games on.
Right. You could imagine a Switch that is, DLSS powered enough to put out a game that at least pretends to run at 4K, right? Yeah. And then you got to make your game for 4K resolutions and 4K assets, which is not something anything on Switch is really working with right now. And it's a different workflow, and they need to be ready for that in a way that they just simply were not ready for the last 10 years for all the upgrades that they've had to deal with, especially at Creature and Game Freak and things like that.
Yeah. Also, you need to think about, like, Chris String said this the other day, that he was speaking to someone internally at Nintendo. They are 2 years behind where they thought they would be with all their games because of the pandemic. Like, the transition from work from home was like disastrous. So
yep, like,
obviously the most obvious version of that is Zelda, but you've got to imagine that, I mean, if Metroid Prime 4 is a real game, that's not a Switch game. There's no way in hell that is a Switch game. Pikmin 4 was a surprise to me. I thought that would be something that gets kicked to the next one. They could always do dual release, but so yeah, I think we are in the kind of the dying days of not the dying days of the Switch, but it's winding down, because also the dam has broken on Switch piracy in such a way that they need new hardware. Like, right, every single big Switch game is playable on PC 2 weeks early. Like, so
I mean, I didn't include that story, but yeah, Pokemon Scarlet Violet, it's there. You can play it on the internet. It's out there. And the Switch the Switch games still sell, the system still sells, it's doing fine, but they know, they've done this dance before. They know eventually that does flip over, and so why not reset things? They've been ready to reset the generation with a new console probably for a year and a half, maybe longer. They know what they're doing next, or have a very good idea of what they're doing next. It's like, okay, now it's just a matter of getting it out there and figuring out how to replace the very popular Switch with something that can be a follow-up and also a full successor at the same time. That's going to be their challenge. They still haven't been able to pull that off before. They're going to have to figure it out with this one.
Next one good, though.
Yeah.
Do they actually have two good consoles in a row for like the first time since the SNES?
Yeah, I think if they make this like mostly an upgrade that feels like going from an iPad to an iPad 2 or whatever, then yeah, I think they can, because if all my games carry over and everything just works, which it's Nintendo, so yeah, I get if people are laughing at that, but if that's the way it actually goes down, then great. Give me a more powerful Switch that plays all my stuff that I played before. That's easier said than done. There are a lot of reasons why the new chipset, the new system on a chip that NVIDIA might be making right now, would not have just baked in compatibility with every game on the Switch. There might be some issues there. They'll have to solve that. They are working directly with NVIDIA. They'll have to solve that. But if they do, and it is a more powerful Switch and all my stuff just works, then that is a good console, period. I'm ready. Give it to me. I'm ready for it. All right, moving along to EA granted patent for system that changes controls based on how good or bad you are at playing. This comes from Rich Stanton at PC Gamer. Electronic Arts has been granted a patent it applied for in late 2020 named Automated Controller Configuration Recommendation System, which outlines a system whereby a game would adjust controller settings depending on the user's skill. That's right. Why get good when you could get algorithm, writes our friend Rich Staten. The patent's abstract outlines how the software would involve determining, based on the controller input, a user profile for the user comprising at least a skill level and an input tendency of the user. The software would subsequently make adjustments to the controller settings that are explicitly intended to improve performance of the user in relation to the software the controller settings comprising at least one of the controller sensitivity or controller assignments. Basically, the idea is the game would be smart enough to like look at how you are interacting with a controller or a keyboard and mouse and be like, okay, they are only using these buttons. They keep going here to try to do something. Why don't we put more of the functions in a place where they are already reaching? And to me, that sounds pretty friendly to someone coming into new to game. You know, it sounds especially friendly to people who have accessibility issues, right? People who, you know, I mentioned this when we were talking about, I was putting the rundown together during my Extra Life stream. You know, if you're a one-handed gamer, you go in and you are using some buttons more frequently than others. They're easier to reach. If the game could just tell that and adjust the controls to just work for you more easily, that's a big win. This sounds like a very interesting piece of technology.
Yeah, EA is it's the kind of thing that kind of fits with the type of popular games they do, like your FIFAs and stuff like that. The idea that someone can just there's already a reduced controller option in the sports games where it basically goes down to 2 buttons and it's just context where you are on the pitch that it will do certain things. This seems like an evolution of that. Anything that makes games easier to play for more people sounds good to me. But EA is also a company that, as a lot of companies do, but I suppose they become a bit more public. EA patents tons and tons and tons of stuff.
Lots of research, yep.
Yeah, that something never really, well, it doesn't always manifest and stuff.
Yeah.
Some of it is quite controversial. There's literally there's a patent. It's pretty old now, but it's sent the FIFA community into a tiz for years and years, where it's like dynamic difficulty based on, say you're winning 3-0, the opposition gets like certain boosts, and people in the FIFA community are convinced that this is an Ultimate Team, the competitive mode. So it's like, I'll be 3-0 up and then my opponent's players will just be 1,000 times better. So yeah, it'd be cool to see this come to fruition, because some games are a bit too complicated, even for someone that plays games literally every day. When I'm reviewing 2 games, it's sometimes like, what the hell is the controls for this compared to this? So yeah, we'll see. You're an old man. Can you even control any games at this point?
No, I'd rather the controller just play the games for me at this point.
This is why you just like stream old crap instead of actually playing.
Yeah, I was playing the stream last night. The chat was like, "We got a bad game for you, Motorbike." It was a really good quick look on that they've made the guys go insane when they played it all those years ago, and I played it. I'm like, I kind of like this. It's broken and weird, and it fits with me pretty well. I need one hand free for my prune juice, Jordan. You know that. I gotta stay regular. All right. 6 years after release, Battlefield 1 has re-entered Steam's top 10. This comes from Jordan Midler at VGC. As spotted by Pulse, the shooter, which was first released in October 2016, has seen a massive jump in popularity, seeing its largest concurrent player count ever. It's worth noting that the game was added to Steam in 2020. The player count, which reached 49,732 over the past 24 hours, is around 44,000 more than the Battlefield 2042 than what Battlefield 2042 registered in the same period. Jordan, this is happening with Battlefield 1, a game that is discounted, right? Down to like about $5. Yeah. This is also happening with Battlefield 5, a game that is much less discounted. I don't know what the price is, but it's
like $45.
Right.
So it's basically full bump, and they're still getting it. And
has 3 times as many active players as Battlefield 2042. I mean, this is obviously, there's no newsflash here that people are not thrilled with 2042, a game that had a pretty disastrous launch and has not cleaned things up. I mean, I remember months ago reporting, maybe this was on Grubb Snacks even, they have a team that I called it a skeleton crew, and that was incorrect. But they had a team that was working on getting the content done that they promised they needed to get done, and they weren't going to do much more than that. And just don't set your expectations high, and that's clearly happened since then.
I always think it's cool when these communities are like, "Fuck this, let's go and play a good game," and not just toil. And it happens in Call of Duty. Like, whenever there's a bad Call of Duty release, sales of the backwards compatible versions of Black Ops go like through the roof, because people are like, "Let's just fucking go and play Black Ops, man." Battlefield, I think I gave that 3 stars in my review of it, 2042. It was a star too much. I had such faith in the Portal mode that was going to save it somehow, because Portal is really cool, and I wish is the best part of that game by a mile. But the actual game part of that game, arse, absolute arse. So yeah, this next game for them, man, they're gonna have to come out super cap in hand, be like, it's the Battlefield you know and love. We promise, we're sorry, like that kind of song and dance.
Yeah, so that's why, I mean, really the reason this story is here for sure is that, you know, it's interesting to see this happen. But what this really spells disaster for is if the next game doesn't hit for Battlefield, for me that's lights out. But the next game's got to be free to play, right? That's the first thing. It cannot compete with Fortnite and all these other things that are just free to play shooters that are everywhere. They should have made 2042 free to play. That would not have solved its issues, of course. But a $70 game with that was arse. Was always going to just sputter out and die. And it seems like it was free to play. Like you even get a couple of chances to fix things. And this game is 2042 is not getting those chances because I think they know that even if they do get it into a decent state, it's not worth it. You should, because what they would really need to do is get it in a decent state and then make it free to play. And they could just jump to the next game, make that free to play from the jump, or have a free to play mode at the very least, and put all the effort into making that have a great launch, right?
Yeah. You hope it's free to play, but does EA get away with doing that? Like, is it just a case of, because next year is a big year of expenditure for them. Their EAFC is going to have to be like a big kind of
big marketing campaign.
Not for me and you, for the people that go into the supermarkets.
Yeah, it's gonna be
like,
everywhere.
It's got to be like the fucking get the F out campaign from WWE. Be like, we are EAFC now. It's got your Ultimate Team. It's got all your stuff, but
it's gonna have Pele and Barack Obama in the ads, and they're gonna be everywhere. Yes, it's gonna be massive.
So you wonder if that is going to cost so much that they're going to have to do a bit of like, if they're going to have to do one more retail Battlefield. But it's like Warzone comes out in a couple of days and that's going to be the biggest shooter in the world. So you're competing with free. So if you can make a shooter that is so good that it's worth $70 entire better than free, like.
And you know, who knows, they'll put a campaign and that'll help lessen the sting a little bit, something they didn't have with 2042. That was never really the issue either. No. You know, this is them now fully under Vince Zampella, though. The last game was not. The last game was the chance to prove that DICE was still DICE and didn't need Vince Zampella to come in and oversee everything. Well, Vince Zampella is in charge now, so you know what happened there. So I'm like ready to see what their thinking is and what his thinking is in terms of how to resurrect that series and do another real Battlefield game next time. All right, that does it for the news. I did have some polls I wanted to discuss. Let me see here. I have it right here. Let's transition over. Is the leaked overdose footage a planned leak by the mastermind Hideo Kojima? 38.7% said yes, the hashtag team fake, and 61.3% said no, hashtag team real. Jordan, what are you? You ready to join the elite team of team fake?
I heard a rumor that it was actually uploaded by Hassan Karaman, so I thought, like, if I had the talent, I would have photoshopped his face being the one in the reflection of the laptop, because that would have been so fucking funny. But I think, I don't know if this footage specifically is real, but overdose is obviously real, and what they're looking at, because like they literally contacted Henderson being like, we'll talk to you about it if you just don't report on it. And it's like, well, thanks for the confirmation, lads.
Yep.
So yeah, Kojima, man. I've got beef with Kojima now, unfortunately. I listened to his Brain Structure podcast and he was like, anyone that reports on what I tweet about is fake news. And it's like, mate, you're one of the most prominent game developers in the world, and you make so many, like, a lot of your tweets end up being newsworthy, like links to what you're working on, or the fucking teases being like, who am I, what, and it's Elle Fanning's face and all that shit. Although, disclaimer, obviously the podcast is translated, so he may have said it with a bit more levity and a bit more, stop taking everything so seriously. But the guy that reads his translation, super dour, super like serious. Podcast is great though. Very, very interesting.
It's gotten apparently it's gotten better. That first episode, I was just like, oh man, this sucks. This is real boring shit. This is like, and it's just them. The problem with the first podcast was just like, man, I'm awesome. I had this idea. Everyone said it wouldn't work, and guess what? It did. And he told that story for different things like 3 or 4 times. I like the time he told it for Boktai, but that was like the 3rd time he told the same basic story.
Grazitron in the chat makes a good point.
Please.
It's very much don't listen to the dirt sheets energy, and it's like Hulk Hogan holding the Observer, being like, "This is a rag sheet, brother," and it turns out it was actually completely true. So yeah, love Kojima, but if he starts beef, I'm here. I will not back down from beef.
I listen. I'm right there with you. I got your back. I will. I will distract Jeff Keighley so you can get him 1-on-1. All right, don't worry about that. I got you.
I have there's been a request in the chat for quite some time, and I'd like to ask you to do it. Can I get a Scottish accent, please, Jeff?
And I can barely do an American English accent right now. I'm so tired. Give me a line that just so I can practice based off what you're saying.
Hideo Kojima is looking for a scrap.
Hideo Kojima is looking for a scrap.
That was like basically Danny O'Dwyer. So you're in the same kind of like he's
a right
like
proper,
100 miles that way from me. So
yeah, right proper. Okay, I'm not gonna actually say it again, but it's about to see. There we go. All right. Wow. All right.
Jeff won't get cancelled. Scottish people have no power. We can't even get independence from the UK. We're not going to cancel fucking anybody. Don't worry about it.
That's right. You guys are under that boot forever. Oh man. Yeah, you guys have to deal with that shit. Man. Yeah, come to America. Just stay here. Everything's going great for us. We're going to be.
I've had to fill out a lot of paperwork explicitly saying that I will not stay there, and they wanted my social media handles, so I am just there until Friday. Relax. It's okay. I'm coming home on Friday.
I always get all our friends in trouble. Every time Lucy and Tam are on there, they're like, we disavow everything this man is saying. Everything Jeff has said so far, we do not agree with. Okay, my bad. All right, I had an idea. Battlefield. Okay, so we need a poll for Wednesday. Do you think the next Battlefield will be free to play? I might have asked this before, but I do not care. I'm very, very tired, so we're just all going to deal with it. Couldn't finish that sentence. Game, mess, mornings.
Go. You're nearly there. You're nearly there.
Just hit yes. Oh, man, it's already filled out for me. No. 2 days. There we go. I'm tweeting it. I don't even know what it says anymore. I forget what I just typed. Jordan, where can people find you? What do you got going on this week? Tell the people about yourself.
Oh, well, tomorrow I've got a million flights to go on and play. And I mean, I've got that beautiful Steam Deck, so it makes flying so much easier. But play a lot of Vampire Survivors, the game of the year. Then later this week, there will be something to do with Microsoft on Friday, which is apparently as much as I can say. But and yeah, just trucking along. Big review next week, I think. And yeah, go to VGC because that's where the news lives. I'm workshopping that as our new slogan under the master. You know how is it the Washington Post that has like democracy dies in the darkness?
Yes,
I want where the news lives.
In New York Times, all the news that's fit to print, and yep, there you go. You know what? I wanted to do this as well before we got out of here. Metacritic. Let's do the quick review.
Is that Sonic?
Yeah, review roundup for Sonic. I guess this number Sonic, exactly man. Right. 73. That feels right for that game to me. 73 feels right.
73 fucking 7, mate.
Sonic's
a lot of shite.
I mean, listen, yes, right. I know, and so it's weird that this game is kind of fun. Like it's definitely a bad game. It is, but it's kind of fun.
Here's the thing, so Scullion reviewed it for VGC, and when he was talking to me about it, I was like, "You're off your head! Like, there's no way." And then he was like, "Here, you know what Arceus did for Pokemon? This game is trying to do that for Sonic."
Yeah, like, so really good, Paul. That is absolutely what this is. I mean, both games 100% just trying to be Breath of the Wild. This game even more so, just not even trying to hide it even a little bit. The first person that says stop comparing everything to Breath of the Wild to me about this game, I'm gonna fight you. Meet me behind the 7-Eleven. I'm swear to God.
Breath of the Wild is like Breath of the Wild was also famously shite. So if you're going to take a terrible franchise and make a game based on a shit game, like
his microphone right there. There he goes. All right, his microphone's been cut off now. Everybody, we're safe from his. We are safe from his vitriol. All right, let's get him back. 73 Metacritic. That's, like I said, that seems right. Attack of the Fanboy gave it a 90. Sonic Frontiers really picks up the slack where this franchise started to falter. Checkpoint Gaming, Sonic Frontiers was definitely a risk, but Sega and Sonic Team are no strangers to rolling the dice and operating on pure ambition. That seems generous, but fair enough.
Yes, let's call out specific reviewers. You've not slept. Let's get a specific review up and just fucking do word by word bullshit. I disagree.
I mean, listen, I'm feisty, everybody. I don't mean anything I'm saying. IGN 70, Sonic Frontiers is a delightfully weird and experimental evolution of the Sonic games so many of us grew up with. It's a series of open world islands. Are filled with so much variety and pieces of Sonic history, from classic platforming stages to silly mini games, that they're enjoyable to explore, even when awful graphical pop-in is a constant for the Hedgehog.
Did Minotti review it?
I think he did.
Bring it up.
Yes.
Bring it up.
All right,
we need to fucking see this shit.
Let's see here. I'm pretty sure the GameSpeed review is 80 on here. Somebody must have gave it a 4 out of 5. There it is. Read full review. Sonic Frontiers review. Stop laughing. From Mike Minotti. Poor Sonic's off the butt of jokes, even after starring in 2 hit films and a stellar retro revival with 2017 Sonic Mania. But the Bluebird's lows often stick out more than his highs. To be fair, they are pretty low lows. Titles like Sonic the Hedgehog 2006 and Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric are some of the worst widely released games of all time. Those are both 3D platformers, the format where Sonic has struggled the most. Some titles like Sonic Adventures games have a lot of charm, even if they have aged into feeling more like B-movie camp than a AAA release they once were. But for every decent to good 3D outing like Sonic Generations, you have a mediocre to terrible efforts like Sonic Unleashed and Sonic Forces. With Sonic Frontiers, Sega may have finally found a winning formula for a 3D Sonic adventure. That's, scroll down, bunch of bullshit.
I mean, what does he know about literally anything? So
I 100% agree. Overall, however, I'm impressed with Sonic Frontiers. If I put my nostalgia-tinted glasses aside, when it comes to my affection for the adventure games, I feel pretty comfortable calling this Sonic's best 3D effort. I hope Sega continues using and refining this open world formula. Who knows, we might even get 2 good 3D Sonic games in a row if they do. Yeah, I mean, that's where I'm at. This is a game that is mostly still pretty bad, sort of objectively, until you start running around as Sonic, and it's like, oh, okay, actually, never mind. That's cool. That actually feels fun, and upgrading works, and finding stuff and exploring works. It's a really, really okay game, and I mean that really, really, like, it's like a okay plus, you know, and I'm that's really 3 out of 5 plus. That's kind of where I would put it. All right, we got to wrap this up. Thank you, everybody, for watching Giant Bomb. There's a bunch of stuff coming up this week. I don't remember. Check out the twitter.com/giantbomb. We'll be putting up the calendar here in a little bit. I'm going to go to a meeting where they're going to talk about it right now, and I'm going to pretend to be awake. Jordan, thank you so much for joining me today, man. I really appreciate it.
Of course, mate. Let's go 24 more hours. Let's do it right now. Next time you do one of these ridiculous long-term streams, give me a shout. And
absolutely.
What the fuck? What the actual fuck did you just...
You mean the gamer glasses?
My mind completely.
The gamer glasses, you mean? Where I just magged them on my face? There it is. That's how it works. People are listening to the audio. I took the sunglasses part of my sunglasses off. Oh boy! All right,
that's thrown me for a fucking loop.
Yeah, I hope I ruined your day. That's what I was going for there. This is that. Just deal with this image in your hand.
Oh. How am I meant to do anything? Also for folks in the chat, I'm wearing the classic.
Oh, that's good stuff.
Shirt.
That's good stuff.
That is the best Giant Bomb shirt ever, in my opinion. It has survived many a wear.
Well, it looks beautiful on you. You're a beautiful man. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Thank you, everybody, for watching. You're the best audience at gaming. Thanks to everyone who hung out with me all night. We had 300, 500, 600 people watching at times all throughout the night. For the extra live stream, raised a lot of money. One more plug for that, tiny.cc/Grubb. If you want to throw a few extra bucks towards that, I'd really appreciate it. But we reached our goals, so thank you to everybody. Thank you. And and we'll see you around. See you on Giant Bomb later this week. Until then, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.
Hunt.